Welcome all of you and welcome to today's podcast. We have an interesting session coming up. We are joined by Dr. Thomas Hillig. He's the founder and managing director of THEnergy or THEnergy, a consultancy firm that focuses on innovation and new business models in the energy sector. Thomas is a friend of mine and we've been in cahoots for years now, but he is one of the most visible voices in the industry on LinkedIn, where he comments daily on the challenges and opportunities of the energy transition. He has a background that combines engineering, strategy, and years of consulting experience, and he has become a trusted influencer in the sector. He is known for his sharp insights, candid takes, and ability to make complex issues understandable, and that's no small task to be able to do that. We will be talking about content over beauty, the do's and don'ts of influencer marketing for the energy industry. Thomas will share how credibility is built, what makes content resonate, and why authenticity matters more than polished campaigns. So, Thomas, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Friedrich.
It's an honor to have you and a pleasure, of course, and I've known you for a long time, and so I'm a little bit biased in your favor, but I am going to try to ask you some challenging questions and for our audience, take a sneak peek into your world because it's extremely important, extremely relevant. But before we go into content, how did you get into energy influencing? And which brands have you cooperated with?
So my first time was already almost with you, Friedrich. Our nice journey to Portugal, to Scotland, and to Iceland for Voith Hydro. Before, actually, I did a little bit for Schneider Electric. My background, basically, I worked as a consultant. My main topic was innovation in the energy space, microgrids, solar for the mining industry, solar for islands, also a little bit later hydrogen. And I did numerous market entry workshops. And I did not realize that I was building up an interesting followership on LinkedIn. So basically, Schneider Electric, they told me first, can we do something together in social media? Do you want to be our social media influencer? At that time, I did not even have Facebook or anything. I said, okay, why not? If you're paying me, so I'm a little bit the prostitute of the energy industry, let's try it out. And it was a little bit the same with our trip. I got the invite. Someone invites me or sends an email, proposes a trip to Portugal, to Scotland, and to Iceland. Okay, I'm normally more the backpacking kind of tourists, and I won't pay anyone to go to these fabulous places, so I did not reply. But then they came back to me again and said, okay, we are paying you. And then I thought from this moment on, influencer marketing might be something interesting, and I might dedicate a little bit more time to it. And at the very beginning, I was very bad, I have to say. When I was supposed to give any interview during our trip, I think in the final version, there isn't a single word that I say. So I was there for written comments, more or less. But later on, companies like Siemens Energy, they invited me to events. I did interviews. And also, I have to mention here, I was a little bit afraid that there would be some collateral damage when it came to my consulting business. So I remember this first interview that I was doing for Siemens. I said, no, I can't do it. I'm doing a due diligence for Total, rural electrification in Africa at the same time, and they will start laughing at me if I do a selfie. In the end, the compromise was then the format of interviews. And I've been doing this for quite some big brands like SAP, Cummins, IBM, Nokia, Daimler Truck, more Panasonic. Also recently more and more Chinese players, the big ones like Huawei, Longi, and SIG Energy, but then also for the EU Commission and for associations like, for example, Eurelectric.
Now, thanks for sharing. It's fascinating how you scooted into this influencer part on the content and what we were talking about, the big picture stuff. The content over beauty was the heading that we chose for this. What does content over beauty mean in the context of influencer marketing?
So podcasts are my format. You can't see me, so this is very handy in this case. When I call my presentation content over beauty, I'm thinking that I cover a certain part actually of energy marketing. I'm only active in B2B. And so my clients want to address other companies in the end. The purchase decision actually is pretty much focused on technical and on commercial features. You cannot tell them, okay, you look great and please buy our product. The purchase decision is more complex, and also when we talk about influencer marketing, you have to dive a little bit more into the details of the solution, of the product. And this is why content over beauty, this is why I like this title.
I do too. Thank you for explaining that. Let's talk about authenticity a little bit. Why do you think authenticity is especially important in the energy space? Or is it more so in the energy space than other industries?
I think there is this emotional factor in the energy space where companies actually want to greenwash their solutions, and then they do something which is actually not sustainable. I only promote sustainable solutions. And if I, for example, would go for solutions that make coal-fired power plants a tiny bit more efficient, you could also call this a sustainable solution. In my world, this would not be sustainable. Greenwashing, here my opinion is a little bit more complex. I actually love greenwashing. If companies start to talk about sustainability, the process starts. If they talk about it, sooner or later, there will be public pressure on them, and they also have to walk the talk and do sustainable measures, even if the first things are very small. On the consulting side, I've started with the main focus on renewable energy for mines, for large mines. And then it was about adding maybe 10% of solar energy. But there's a certain dynamic in this special segment. If one mine does it, the others also feel the pressure, and their customers actually ask them for resources that come from green mines. And then it's not about these 5, 10, 15%. The percentage, the penetration of renewables actually go up. This is actually why I love greenwashing. Whoever speaks about sustainability in public, in the end, will also need to come up with actions. But for me, it's important also that there is at least a path visible that the solutions I promote in the long term lead to real decarbonization.
And and thank you for clarifying, but in the shortest sentence possible, can you tell us why you love greenwashing?
Greenwashing is great because companies who start with greenwashing have to walk the talk.
Very good. Thank you. Let's move into the do's and what works. And there might be some overlap to what you said already, but what makes content resonate with professionals in such a technical and serious industry like energy?
Over the years, there are different formats which I have tried out. There are things like short video interviews. They work because the platforms such as LinkedIn and Twitter, they are optimized for this kind of content. Then, how can you actually transport content in these videos? If I talk actually to the communication department of my clients, it's always an important point that the interviewee, the person I interview in these videos, does not do the normal promotional stuff. It's more about offering some information for free, some background information on the industry, sharing trends, and not saying we have a great product and please buy it. So it's a little bit more sophisticated way of marketing if you choose the video content. Then, of course, there are easier products or solutions, not products. There are easier solutions like reports where you can really dive into the details of a solution. But this is then a little bit more difficult to press into the standard formats of social media. And then it could be also that a short video or a short text post makes appetite for these assets which you have behind, like a report.
A follow-up question on that, because you mentioned trends, you mentioned reports. So how do you decide which trends or reports or issues are worth sharing with your audience?
First of all, I try to get an understanding of who is my audience and which part of my audience is a certain customer interested in. But very often you also need then not only this particular target group to be successful on social media, you also need to activate other people who give the first likes, for example, who make comments. Typically, I would say that my target group are decision makers and who don't have time to comment, to write long comments on LinkedIn. So they are hidden somewhere in the invisible of LinkedIn, sometimes also on X. But I run into them and they, oh, you have been there and there, but I've never seen a single comment or like from them. But for the algorithm that these guys also see my posts, it's also important to activate people who maybe spend more time on social media and who have the time to comment, to like, to share.
Interesting. Let's move to the don'ts, maybe some pitfalls to avoid. So in regards to influencer marketing, what are the biggest mistakes you see companies making when they try influencer marketing?
I think there are different type of influencers. I'm a pure B2B influencer, and some who actually target B2B clients go for the typical influencers who don't have an authority on any of these topics and who don't have a followership. So mainstream influencers for B2C, yes, but for this particular B2B segment, I think this won't work. I've seen this a couple of times. Then also talking to communication departments, some of my clients really want to have highly polished or high polished videos that look like commercials. My normal methodology is a little bit different. I come with my cell phone. I have a portable tripod, which looks like it breaks down immediately, and then just some wireless microphones. But this type of format is what my audience is used to. If I go away from this, the video looks better, no doubt, but it doesn't look authentic anymore. And then if in the end the target group sees it, immediately they recognize, okay, this is a commercial, and it's not the typical stuff where also the interviewer asks a little bit critical questions. And so it's not hiding the message, but it's coming right directly with this message to the camera with this commercial video. Then I would even recommend do commercial videos and don't do influencer marketing. This is my perception. I'm talking only into for this B2B energy space.
Yeah, I know, it makes perfect sense. And segmentation is everything. Who are your audience, and then the mistakes or successes depend on how you talk to your audience. Talk to me about red flags. So, what are some red flags that suggest that a particular influencer might not be the right partner for an energy brand?
In the sustainability space, I think you have to do, as a company who works with an influencer, do some due diligence actually on what is the track record of this guy. Is he only active regarding sustainability products? If not, this could have consequences that then they find out 2 years ago he made the same for coal-fired power plants or for internal combustion engines. If we talk about mobility, I think this would give away the authority on the topic completely. I think this is a key thing that you need to respect. Then there are also some in-betweens. For example, I struggled. Do I want to do business with, on the consulting side, more with oil companies? But I was then very convinced they have the money, they have to change. So I want to do business with them on the consulting side. And it never came back to me because it was purely focused on sustainability topics. But also, if I had done consulting projects for them in their core business, which is not my background, by the way, then it would be very difficult to go out and talk about pure sustainable solutions.
No, very interesting. Thanks for sharing that. I like it. So, but let's leave the pitfalls and go into the platform and reach. Maybe your opinion. Which platform do you think works best for energy-related influencer content, and why?
Yeah, B2B, I would say there is only LinkedIn these days. Twitter, when it was Twitter before Elon Musk took it over and renamed it to X, worked, especially when we talked about journalists at that time. And this is also a small niche, purely journalists, where you could think about also doing campaigns on X. But if you want to address people in the B2B space directly, I think there is no way around LinkedIn. I also have to admit, I haven't done the trends. I'm not a dancer, so I'm not on TikTok and Instagram. I post mountain pictures, but no one really cares what I have to say on Instagram. It's a different audience. And also, if you compare one follower on LinkedIn and how he might be involved in the purchase decisions of my clients, it's not comparable to a follower on Instagram. Probably you need 1,000 followers on Instagram to have the same impact than in the B2B space in comparison to LinkedIn. So at the moment, I think it is LinkedIn. Hopefully Elon Musk is not going to buy it.
Yeah, no, thank you. But on TikTok, Instagram, possibly Facebook, is it a waste of money to go there, in your opinion? It's a very black and white question. Is it just simply not effective for a B2B company in the energy space?
I would say for B2B, there are certain niches. So they also have to take care about HR marketing. So there it definitely could make sense. But if it's really about the solutions, mainstream, difficult, sometimes they also want to target the end customer for an ingredient branding in the end. So there it could make sense. But if they directly target other companies, there are also people you can reach on Instagram that are involved in purchase decisions of the energy sector, but the likelihood is very, very low.
And another question on the platforms and the reads. It's easy to measure clicks. And so, I mean, just measure it and then voila, we are successful because we got the clicks that we wanted. But is there a danger of chasing reads and impressions or clicks over meaningful engagement?
Actually, I'm not a fan of meaningful engagement, I have to say. I think the real decision makers don't have time to engage. This is what I see again and again. But they are still realizing where you are as an influencer. Or some of them, of course, not all of them. You have some CEO level. I had engagement by the CEO of Enel, the former CEO of Enel, which clearly was not from his communication department. So it happens once in a while. And that is not the typical engagement. And the people who are really involved in decision making, who have a very stressful job, you can't expect that they write long comments. So I think this is a different type of audience, which is also important for the algorithm. And some of them are also involved in decision making. But I think people that you don't reach other marketing tools and whom you can reach with LinkedIn, don't expect them to really engage in what you are doing. So I personally, and this is up for debate, I'm a fan of chasing impressions. And I think engagement is not so important.
No, thanks. It's a good answer. And as you say, there's a dialogue to be had about the content versus the clicks, etc. But thanks for caring for your view on it. And it's really helpful. Let's move the platform discussion and talk a little bit about strategy and impact possibly. How should companies measure the success of influencer campaigns in the energy industry? This, of course, leads back to what we were just talking about. But that question alone, how would you answer it?
I would say have a look at impressions. If you compare in the end what one influencer does for you, I think comparing different posts regarding impression is a good indicator. But then also come up, how satisfied are you with the quality of the video? So if many people see a video that is done without any content, or which does not have any content, then it's not worth that people are seeing it. And it's also about selection of people who you involve from your own company. I think it's also important for the outcome that you involve the right people and that you evaluate to some extent whom have you involved. There are some examples where you say, okay, I interviewed people and afterwards the solution of my client becomes more attractive if they know actually who is behind this solution. And sometimes there's a very big distance and there is not this emotional part, which could also, even if we talk about content, that they say, okay, I know the person or one of the persons behind the solution, and he makes a reliable impression. I want to work with this company. And by the way, even for big companies, I got the feedback from my videos. They finally knew who was the right person to talk to. So clients who could not get through the organigram of large corporates and did not know who was responsible. Different departments were talking to them, and then they knew, okay, microgrids for mining. I made the interview, so they directly addressed this person.
Yeah, thank you. But the second question on the impact and strategy, and so I'm thinking about influencers generically, not you per se, and I'm also thinking about the energy transition. How do you think, or do you think influencers can help speed up the energy transition by shaping opinion or awareness or something else?
I think then we are more in the B2B space. So my audience is convinced about the energy transition. I think there's not much doubt. They all would say we need to do it. Sometimes if we talk about commercial and industrial clients, there might be a little bit different. They say it's necessary, but it's not a priority at the moment. We don't have the money to do it and so on. So yes, to some extent. But I think for making the energy transition a success, it's more than people who are not known for energy, who really have followers that are more easy to influence and who have not made up their opinion about the energy. I would not work with myself when it comes to the question, shall we do the energy transition and the importance of acting quickly.
I like the authenticity of your replies. I mean, it's just, I agree. We wouldn't go to a technical guy like you when you just want to talk to the audience. It's all about, your segments and how you talk to them. My last question, so it's about the personal perspective. If you could give one piece of advice to companies that are considering influential partnerships, what would that be? Of course, we talked about this, but specifically this question, how would you respond to it?
My first advice would be just try it out, work with an influencer. You get a new audience, which is not following you as a company, for example. And the second would be, don't only do it once. The more often you do, the more successful it gets. Also, you get then activation within your own company, which is good for the algorithm. But probably the most important one is consider it as teamwork. In the end, the platforms want your money as a corporate player. So LinkedIn, X, they want the money for promoted content. And so the algorithms are tuned more and more in a way that they are not so friendly for influencers. But if you have a certain activation group within your company, then you can work around these pitfalls of the algorithm. So this would be, if you have decided to work with an influencer, this would be my main recommendation. Don't think that the influencer will do all the work after signing the contract on his own, on her own, but support the influencer also when the content is produced and when it's put onto the platform.
Mm-hmm. No, brilliant. Thanks. My final take on it, it's influencer marketing is just, in brackets, marketing. It's like any other marketing. And if you don't do your homework, you don't do your segmentation, you don't do your, tone of voice, how you're going to talk about things, etc., it's not going to work. So the same thing with influencer marketing. But thanks, Thomas. I really appreciate it. You are highly respected in the industry, so it's an honor for us at Charts to have you on a podcast. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Friedrich. It's always a pleasure, and good luck for Charge in Istanbul.
Thank you.
I really feel sorry that I can't come this year, but fingers crossed, and I'm very sure it will be a great event.
Thank you.